Okay, so let's just make sure the sound's working. We'll get some feedback here. Make sure we're on in the group. Okay, good. Okay, so who's with us? Just give a thumbs up or something in the comments. Let me know you're there and that you can hear everything properly and who I'm speaking to, because that always matters in terms of how we cater this to you guys a little bit. Part of these workshops that we're going to be doing requires a bit of participation. It's not just a passive sitting back and listening. There's a bit of interaction that goes on. You guys are actually going to steer this a little bit. So it's been a big couple of weeks. You might have seen the post on the Schumann resonance, a girl in the universe. There's a Facebook group there that I often post their posts up about the weather of the energy, and it says here that it's been spiking again. What a surprise! Big energies coming in again, and I know this seems a little woo-woo for some people. Seems like, is this a thing? Is this a pseudoscience thing? But in the posts here, let me see if I can get the link for you guys. I'll put it in the feed. Here we go. And this is just an example. You can have a look at that later. Is that this is still kind of giving you the image of, the Earth and this bubble around it, and these energies coming in either from the sun or from behind the sun. And it's sort of, I'm assuming that it's coming from the model of the static solar system, but there was an interesting video. What was it called? I can never remember his name. So yeah, here we go. So there's this the helical model of the solar system, and what it shows in this one, I'll post a link for you guys, is that you can see this solar system spiraling through space. And there was another here we go. And there was another video series. Oh, this is just, no, that's not the video I'm looking for. But basically what it says is that our solar system is moving around this huge cycle and starting to break through this photon belt. And it's kind of like, let's say, it's like when you go to the airport, you get screened, you get x-rayed, and they check you out, make sure you're not carrying anything with you. And according to all these ideas, and I'm not saying I believe in it, I'm not saying I don't, I think they're interesting ideas to think about, is that as we go through this photon energy belt, the whole solar system going through this photon energy belt, it actually is going to start removing away old energies, these debris, if you will. And, you might have noticed that in the last little bit, people's triggers have been coming up. People have been acting a little strange, out of character maybe. And, or maybe it's just been a rough ride for the last little bit. Or maybe you're through already because you've done a lot of work on yourself and you're clean and clear before we got there. And they just wave you through customs, so to speak, on an energetic level. And, these workshops, I call them foundations in frequency, because we need to have a basis of belief of which we're going to start to view all this stuff through. And, it comes from the idea that we're more energy than matter, that energy is the precursor to the physical realm, the physical world, and that all the thoughts, emotions, actions, people, places, times, and events are all different signatures of frequency of energy that have either condensed and slowed down and solidified, or are still moving and moving from one state to another. And from that point of view, the reality that you're in becomes very, very malleable, becomes pliable. And things like law of attraction make a lot more sense. Things like manifesting make a lot more sense. Things like living lucidly makes a lot more sense. And the paradigm shift that happens, at least in the mind, allows us to move out of this third dimensional base reality, which is, a corridor basically of one time and all this space, to infinite timelines in the one space or many spaces. And so the thinking that goes with that is a radical jump. And I've been on this path for a long time now. I'm not saying this to impress you or anything. It's just fact of the matter. And I've learned a few things along the way through practicing. Obviously, like a lot of people out there, I've read a lot of books. I've attended a lot of events. I've had a lot of different teachers. But once I learn something, I go to work and I practice it and I figure it out, and I see what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And a lot of stuff that has worked for me, I'm wanting to pass on to you guys. And so what I've done to make it a bit easier, because, when you go from this third dimensional base reality of sequential thinking to what they're calling a fifth dimensional and beyond way of thinking and being, is that the doors of abundance open wide up for you. And it can be a bit overwhelming, because what happens is you're basically slapped in the face with a whole bunch of uncertainty, and what you may lost the connection. What happens is when you start moving from a foundation of frequency, the responsiveness becomes, very, very fast. There's almost, there's a very low latency. There's no lag, basically. If you've seen, let me just bring up an example to put in here for you. There we go. That's perfect. If you've seen things like cymatics, where they put a liquid or a substance, onto a speaker, inside a speaker, like oil or some kind of liquid, and they turn the music on, it starts vibrating. Instantly, the liquid starts to change shape. And so, the old idea is that we have a thought, emotion, action, we move towards it, and then all of a sudden, in some space of time, takes time, you start to, you eventually manifest what you want, But from this model, it's like as soon as you have the thought, that thought starts sending out and broadcasting a frequency, and that frequency starts to either disrupt, interact, and influence the physicality around you. And another theory is that instead of, continuing on in this one time stream, each time you have a different thought, each time your frequency changes, each time you raise your energy, if you're in those communities, you're actually shifting yourself into different timelines in the potential field of, the multiverse, infinite possibility. And so abundance is not something you have to acquire. It's just innate. It's right there. And then it becomes about, how do you navigate all this? How do you not control your thoughts, but how do you pilot you and navigate yourself through these different spaces in time, space. And so what I did is when I started out to seriously practice what I'd learned, I started to break it down into stages of development, let's say. And my objects of manifestation through these exercises were animal totems, because I had no bias towards whether they showed up in my reality or not. It wasn't like, I need to manifest extra money so I can pay my rent and survive. It was like, I'm going to manifest the image of a fox, and if it shows up, I'll know that the change to my subconscious programming has taken effect and landed, and it's running in the background now, and it's having an effect on my reality. And if it doesn't, then okay, it hasn't worked. I just go back into these practices until it does show up. And then, of course, when it does show up, you have the reinforcement of the emotion, which is why you see the fox in the feed all the time. Well, let me just clarify. I spend most of my time on the Facebook Energetic Arts community group page, the feed. The Energetic Arts page, which has, 50,000 members on it or something like that. That's kind of like a bigger group, and Paulina, who's part of the community here, has been kind enough to, sort of manage that and keep you guys in the loop. But those images you're seeing there, they're probably, I don't know, a couple of weeks old, and they're filtered for, the bigger, wider audience. Yeah, if you want something a bit more edgy, sometimes a bit more naughty, you can go into the energetic arts community group and get things like as I post them, basically. And so what I'm doing is I'm feeding you things to keep you in the right state and to help you shift your state. And I'm putting up links to all sorts of different interviews and lectures and videos and things to get you thinking outside of the corridor of that third dimensional reality. And, I know there's a lot of talk on woke culture and stuff, but really this is to show you what's outside the edge of what you think is the edge, right? And to give you material for your consciousness and your subconscious mind to start to work with, so it can start to perceive new potentials in the field of infinite possibility. And so we have, the fox, which Paulina was really cool to put up a thread there. Where is it? Come on. It was further forward. It's not coming up in the feed. You've probably seen it, or you will see it. This is annoying when I can't find it straight away. Anyone else feel like that? When you want to manifest something and it doesn't turn up straight away, like, why isn't it turned up? This stuff doesn't work. So no, it works. Just you got to find it. You got to get through it all. There's a lot of information to get through. And so, here we go. Part of what we're doing here is to help you filter down, okay? Because when you go to that space of being unlimited, then to avoid things like overwhelm, what we're wanting to do is condense down and actually start to place limits on the field of infinite possibility, but the limits that you want to eliminate what you don't want so you can have what you do want. And we do that by focusing on what we want, not what we don't want. And that sort of propels you into that field where you want to go. My very first purposeful manifestation was a frog on my bedroom floor. Good. I manifest frogs, actually. There was one on the fence last night. Marley's barking. What the hell are you barking at? And this thing started crawling along the fence line like an alien. I'm like, what is that? Is that a rat? What is that? And because it was dark, I couldn't quite see it. And it had this weird... You ever seen a frog crawl across a fence? It was bizarre. Kate, I have and do experience dimensional shifts. The greatest, craziest experience was around 2013. Shit, it was wild. I saw shit I cannot unsee and not remember. Yeah. Part of the course, isn't it? And, this is part of the other thing is what we're trying to prepare for, is that when we do see these things that are so far outside of what we expect to see or not see, that we don't freak out, that we don't reject it, that we can relax and be curious and go, what is this? I remember when I was in Mexico, I was speaking to this lady during a dinner, and we were doing the workshop was reversed. It was on lucid dreaming. So we would rest during the day when you'd expect the workshop to be on. And then after dinner, the workshop would begin and would go all night through to like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then it would finish for the day, night. And the whole time we're practicing not going to sleep, staying awake while dreaming. And people were having all these, what do you call it? Greatest, craziest experiences. And this one woman said, she was practicing this at home. She's at the workshop because she wants to practice it more. She wants to go beyond where she was before, because when she practiced on herself, she didn't know what to expect. She wasn't ready for it. She saw something, and before she even had a chance to interact with it and learn from it what it was trying to make her aware of, or teach her, or communicate with her, she reacted and started, going into her reptilian mind and started attacking it. And she used this gesture. I was like, and doing this, what is it? Like that? What is it? The evil eye or something? She was doing all this cursing stuff. And I said, imagine that you're this entity from a different dimension. You're floating through the field, like surfing the internet, and this little ping goes off, and it's someone raising their energy, and you go, oh, that's interesting. Someone, it's like this anomaly turns up. That shouldn't be there. It's like the frog on the fence starts talking to you, like, what? A frog's talking. Let's go and investigate this. Let's see what's happening here. And then the frog starts flipping you off. And when you get there, you're like, okay, well, maybe you're just not ready to be opened up to that level of consciousness yet. And so the first one was the fox, and Pauline pulled up some attributes around what the fox represents, which is really good. And that was sort of like the entry level. That gets you going, and that starts you mapping the terrain, starts you getting familiar with things. And then after that, the next main totem, and there were several totems, but I've broken it down into 5 core ones at the moment. The next one was the goat, and the goat represents sure footing and accessing areas that are difficult to access or off limits. Okay, and so this is where you start to get deeper into the game, I guess. Born the year of the goat. Someone's a Capricorn in here. And so what happens is, it's almost, I relate these to like belts in martial arts. There's certain things you learn at these levels, and they make you equipped for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you start to expand and go deeper into this, because the stuff that came out in the last late 90s, 2000s, up until now, in my opinion, is just the preparation is just the foundation for people to be able to get ready to move into this way of thinking and being. I related it back to the 80s when computers just started, and people were saying what the future was going to be like, and then this thing called the internet was coming out, and then you could access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and like with instead of TV where we had to wait all week to see our scheduled program, and if we didn't sit there in front of the TV when it was on, we'd miss it. People are saying, oh, you can watch your favorite show anytime you like, and so can everybody else at different times. You can be watching the same show at different times. And just that concept was really hard to grasp until, we got YouTube and Netflix, and now it's just mainstream. And so now what's happening is this emergence of artificial intelligence coming out with ChatGPT, Midjourney, and a bunch of other stuff, which you're starting to see things in uses of in energetic arts in the group here. You're starting to see how this influence is coming through, and it's out of this world in terms of how we used to do things. You used to need to run a business. You needed a team of people in marketing who specialized, for example, in copywriters and artists and people who did all this stuff. Previously it was like you get a logo done, and then it would have to, maybe 3 people would have to get through it, depending on how complex. And now you can get onto Midjourney, for example. You can type in a prompt, and poof, within a minute or a couple of minutes, you're getting, these amazing pieces of art and variations, and you can keep refining these things. And so, when we're talking about manifesting or quantum jumping or slipping through time through thought alone, it's kind of the same concept. The concept is, the field of reality that we live in is energetic. It's like information. It's like a living internet, a physical internet. And our conscious mind holds the prompts, and then our subconscious is like the artificial intelligence that puts it all together somehow. We don't really know exactly how it works. We don't need to know. And then within a short period of time, once it's rendered the reality, then it shows up. And once we understand a bit of the mechanics, or at least accept in our consciousness that that's how it's, that's how it is, that in this new state of, let's say, 5th dimensional reality, then we start to get better at prompting this subconscious mind that creates it all. Damn, I missed the beginning. Lucy, good to see you. That's all right. We were just warming up. Thanks for coming in and joining. And so, I like to think that we almost need to take on the mindset of a hacker, and use a metaphor, like the Matrix. Neo was a hacker. He was able to get the Matrix to do things, or to do things in the Matrix that it wasn't designed to do, but has the potential for. And when I say that, this 3rd dimensional corridor reality of sequential living, A equals B equals C equals D. And if you want to achieve something, you have to work hard for it, and put yourself through a lot of stress, for example. That model, it's being left behind. It's becoming obsolete now, and we're moving into this new one where, just like with ChatGPT, it's like, instead of going to a copywriter and paying someone $1,000 a month to write your copy for your business, you go to ChatGPT, say, hey, write me copy for an email or a cover letter for a job, a CV, or write me an ad for an energetic arts post. Let's see. I think we might have lost the feed. All right, still got some people with us. Good. There we are. And now that, this is eliminating a bunch of jobs, yes, but it's opening up a whole new field of possibility where people like you and I can sort of become a one-man band, and create things that we would have taken weeks or months and lots of money for. Now it's just, it's all programming, and it's all there. We don't even have to be, a propeller head. We don't have to be a computer scientist to use it. We just have to be a good prompter, a good programmer, a good user, an observer of this system. So learning about how this works is going to put you in good stead, and then also getting good at practicing it is going to, get you these amazing results. And I've used it. Look, some of you who are local, who, I live in Byron now. I live in a really nice place. It's paradise. I drive a car of my choice. I've got the physical things that, tick the boxes of what people generally might want in their life. Good relationships, family, beautiful kids, the best dog ever. I'm sorry, everyone out there with dogs. Mine's the best, and that's all there is to it. But more importantly, it's who I've become on this path, the virtues and attributes, skills and abilities that I've cultivated from where I started. These are the things that you probably don't see that that set you up for creating whatever life that you want. All right. So like I was saying, people who see me in my environment now, that it wasn't always that way. Okay. I remember living in a one-bedroom flat in Melbourne, and my rent was like not even $250 a week, and I was finding it difficult to pay rent, my bills, living expenses. Not because I couldn't get work. I could have gotten a job, a 9 to 5, but I was trying to create the life of having time and money, not just money. And so, that's taken a while. It's a skill. It's something you cultivate over time, like being a martial artist, like jiu-jitsu, for example, something you don't want to rush through, something you want to learn as much as you can along the way at the stage you're at. And so, for example, if you're at the stage of, let's say, the fox, then you want to stay in the fox until you've mastered the fox, and then you move on. Well, you don't move on, actually. The next one comes to you. It starts showing up for you. And you'll start seeing the animal totems coming into the feed in the next little bit. Fox, the goat, the wolf, the orca, the whale, and there's others after that as well. But they're the main 5 to begin with. Now, once you get the attributes of those 5, and you practice them, and you start to get some experience with them, and you start to get the manifestations of them, you're going to be dangerous in terms of being able to manifest pretty much whatever you choose. You'll know in your core that you will have the skill and ability over time, through time, to create absolutely any reality that you choose. And you'll know that the potential is already there. And part of that is having the stoic conviction that even though maybe there is no evidence in your physical reality, that you can still do it, that it's a possibility. And also having the resilience when people around you are trying to convince you that it's either impossible, that potential doesn't exist, or that there are only two options and you must choose one of those. It's like, hey, choose door number 1, which is crap you don't want, or door number 2, which is crap you don't want. And if you look at the logo behind me, the image which we've updated through Midjourney, as a perfect example, there are so many potentials. Okay, each one of these lines, these dots, these shades of color, the spaces between the color represents infinite possibility. Okay, so whatever you're trying to go towards, whether people like it or not, whether people accept it or not, you know, and here's the caveat: as long as you're not hurting anyone, you're doing things from a place of integrity, you know, all the good stuff. Whoever you're interacting with is consenting to it, and okay, then go for your life. You know, it's there. The potential is there. And, you know, those people that are like, oh, if the potential is there, if I'm going to do all this nasty, mean stuff, it's like, well, I don't think you get it, because if you really did, then you would think loftier. You would go for something even better than that, where, you know, you manifest the reality where you don't even, you're not even concerned about, you know, being nasty, revenge, anger, hate, whatever, because the potential of being healed and beyond that is there as well for you. Okay. Where are we? All right. So, by the way, if you have questions at any time, feel free to put them in the post. I'm happy also for you to share the screen. If you want to have a chat on the screen, we can do that. I'll just put up we can have up to 10 people. So let's just post that in now. Okay. So it's this one in the thread, or it could be this one. Same thing, I think. Yeah, they're the same thing. So there's a few ways to tackle this. One is you're so focused on the potential you want, almost to the point of delusion, but you still manage to, you know, attend to your responsibilities day to day. It's kind of like you're living your day to day life, but you're at the same time you're just dreaming the whole time of how good it can be, and you're not feeling the emotions of, you know, angst or anything of not having it. You kind of just happy-go-lucky, going along, you know, expecting sooner or later good things are going to happen to you. But most likely you're human like me and everybody else I know, and things you have let's call them just unwanted emotions. They're not negative, they're just indicators of the gap between where you are here and where you want to be. It's kind of like, you know, being in the back seat of the family car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? You know, or like my little girl, you know, who's 1.5, when she doesn't want to sit in the car anymore, she doesn't get that we're still 20 minutes away from home. She start bucking and kicking in the seat and trying to pull the seatbelt off and stuff like that. And so what we need to do from there is to start to cultivate coping mechanisms, skills to be able to ride those waves of discomfort. All right. And Maybe life kicked you in the teeth a few times and you're able to navigate through it, and now you've got some skills to be able to bridge the gap. For me, it's like I love traveling in terms of being in new places, meeting new people, having new experiences. Most of the time, the ones I enjoy having, especially ones that are in the unknown that I didn't know exist, that turns out, oh my God, I really love doing this, and I had no idea it existed. But actually traveling, like spending 20 something hours on a plane from Sydney to LA, or 10 hours on a plane from London to Dubai, or stuff like that, I could quite easily give that up. If there was a teleportation machine tomorrow, I would not waste any time being on a plane for more than I have to. And so part of the skill set in the training that we want to start to get into, and this is where the discipline comes in, is that we want to be able to be okay when we've left where we were and we're moving to where we're going, and we're in that gap, that transition gap, because when in a lot of the self-help stuff, that they skip over that gap. It's like in the movies, time happens in a cut. And when our bodies are in the physical reality, even though our minds are tripping around all over time, space, sometimes, taking the long way cannot be so enjoyable. So a lot of the time spent in meditation is not there so you can feel warm, fuzzy feelings. It's there so you can get comfortable with, bridging the gap through time sometimes. One of the just pops up in my mind, a part of the level of the whale is to be able to bridge those long spaces in time. When I was training with the guys in Melbourne who were part of the parkour community, they would do all these amazing jumps and gaps and wall runs and climb ups and acrobatics, and it's just really impressive. And they said the hardest obstacle to deal with is open space. Like when you're running for miles and miles from one town to the next, and it's just flat, and there's nothing to look at. It's just boring. How do you stay focused through that? Whales are the best. They're like motherships. Yeah, and they go deep. They go really, really deep, and they can hold their breath for a long, long time. The other part about the level of the whale is going to these deep states of consciousness and staying conscious. Does it pop up, mate, on a phone? I'm not sure what you mean. If you can clarify, I might be able to address it. Do you have jaguars in the totem animals? Not yet. Maybe you can bring that in, Lucy. Yeah. The jaguar. Well, they're very good at keeping hidden. You only see them either if they want you to or when it's too late. Thanks for the comments, guys, and the prompts here. I really would like to do this live so I can get the feedback. I can see you in your eyes, and I can see where you're at. It's a bit hard over the internet like this. So do you have any questions about the content or anything you're going through that you want to sort of tap into? So here's a real key one while you're thinking about that and formulating your comments and your prompts for me, is that the what I've worked out, just like with these new artificial intelligence programs that we're using to, save time and energy and to create all these new amazing pieces of art and content, could we maybe set up a face-to-face with some of us each week? Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. I guess what I would need from you guys is to work out, who wants this type of training. We could definitely do that. I would like to also do some live classes in Byron here, and depending on how many numbers we get, eventually do some retreats, some workshops and retreats. Yeah. I did we can work out one-on-ones for sure. Yeah. Please sign up to NDIS. Funny you should mention that, Kate. I've actually been asked to come back into the fold as a psychosocial recovery coach. I put up a little blurb the other day. So I'll definitely be working with our vulnerable people, doing that heavy lifting again, working in all that hard stuff. Yeah, group meeting to progress and exchange. Yes. Although I'll be doing this stuff with NDIS, which is kind of like, me being back in service again, because I've got the skill set. Tell us more about the work you're going to do. Yeah, okay. But also, I would like to work with people who actually want to do the work as well, not people who need it so much. That would be more fun for me. I'd enjoy that. So the work I'm about to do, it's kind of like this, but it's people. It's for people who are, I don't mean to put down, or take anything away from where you guys have come from. I'm sure everyone's got their journey and their stuff and their trauma, but these are people who've really gone the other way or got lost in a rabbit hole somewhere, and have mental health problems or brain injury or addiction, and they're coming to a point where they want to turn it around and they're willing to do so, but perhaps they've got no idea because no one's actually spent the time to teach them or talk to them, or they don't even know what the options are. So when I was doing this before the title, which they've come up with just recently, I guess, because when I was doing it, that title didn't exist. Otherwise, it probably would have been been under that title. Um, these people are just they're committed and dedicated. Some of them, like they're relentless. This one guy I was helping, and he wanted to get into the army, and his work ethic is, yeah. I wish there were some people in our company that we do have people in our company that have that work ethic, but this guy was something else. He would just, I had to actually tell him to slow down a bit. He was a bit too excited to get moving on. But once again, he wasn't always that way. He spent a lot of time in a dark place, and he just came to that point where it was like, enough's enough. I've had enough of being here. Whatever fears, whatever doubts, whatever insecurities I have, it's overcoming those has got to be better than just staying where I'm at, for the rest of my life, which could go on for years and years. And, from where he was seeing it, it was a life sentence of a pretty cyclic existence. So he was willing to pretty much do whatever he had to get out of there. And so when I gave him instructions on, actions to take, and he was a soldier before even getting to the army. So that's what he wanted to do. So he started acting like a soldier before he even got to the selection process. And by the time we were done, he was fighting fit and ready. I'm just going to read some of these comments now. I've been putting in the work since 2000. I think we have a lot we can learn from each other, and my counselors actually are in awe of me. Not a big note. Okay. Yeah, well, it's nice to be recognized for your good work, I'm assuming, Kate, you're working in the NDIS space. There's not a lot of thank yous that come in that space. When they do, they're really good, but it's like that open space. You got to traverse a lot of space to get to the next thank you sometimes. You'd be surprised what's hidden under a smile. I'm super interested in your work due to the type of challenges for people you should like to give your support to. Well, I think we talked about this, Lucy, at the film. What was it? Not a film festival. You know what I'm talking about. At the theater there, and we were looking at Amber's video. And we got into that conversation. You're asking all the right questions to really bring out a lot of good stuff that I'd kind of put on the shelf or forgotten about or hadn't really talked about for a long time. And I said to you, it'd be good to have you on screen or, in person, having a conversation with you, because I think a lot of good stuff would be shaken out and prompted out in the conversation. So we should do that, definitely. Let's organize it next time we catch up. Being a mum and enlightened were my only ambitions. What's being enlightened like? I'm curious. Byron Bay Underground Film Festival. Thank you. That was it. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, because I don't know about you, Kate, but every time I thought I was enlightened, I realized that I wasn't yet. Like watching a circus, mate. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, still on journey, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who lives in LA, and when I was over there, this is prior COVID, she said, "Oh, have you been down Venice Beach now and seen the circus?" I was like, "You go down there, it's like, whoa, there are some characters out there. It's its own little, it's like Escape from New York under the underbelly." Keen for a chat with more questions and ping pong, science exchange, brainstorming, discovery. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, let's definitely do that, Lucy. I reckon that'd be good. We'll set it up. Maybe Rob can help us with the video. So where was I? Manifesting desires. What would you say is the starting point to identifying manifesting first steps? Good question. Okay, so there's a few approaches, but what I do, I spend a lot of time dreaming about what I want. He doesn't know he's been put on the job yet. Okay, so manifesting desires. You got to be very clear about what you actually want, okay? Because what you've probably seen is people start moving into the timeline. They can feel their energy moving out of the one they were in and into the new one, where what they want is right there on the other side. Okay. But with that is the polar opposite. Remember, there's the positive and negative, you know, in the third dimensional space, because you think it's one way or the other. I'm either going to get what I want or I'm not going to get what I want. And what a lot of people do is they get tangled up in the possibility of what they don't want happening is easier to believe than what they actually want happening, believing, because they're like, hang on, if I could manifest my desire, I would have done it already. The subconscious has already got the answer, right? But, manifesting what I don't want, that's easy because I get that a lot, right? And so what they do is they spend all their time focusing on managing and avoiding what they don't want, which all it does is focuses their energy further and further towards it. And yes, it's not going to manifest the way they imagine it. It's going to manifest in a way that's unknown. And that's even more scary because it's like my fear is going to come up in a way I'm not going to see it coming, in a way that I won't expect, and there'll be no way for me to avoid it. And so a lot of people get anxious and they get scared and they freak out. And just when they can feel the energy moving, they'll tighten up and they'll withdraw and they'll go right back into their old way of being. And they'll feel safe because they're not going to, their fear isn't going to manifest yet. But now they're going back to this pattern of living around and avoiding their fear. Now, when you can detach from that and you can go above this dualistic, positive, negative, when you can go above it and see that they're just potentials. Yes, there is potential for all this good to happen and there's potential for all this bad to happen. Just like this, if we break this logo in half, this map of the infinite field, let's say this side is all the negative things that can happen. This side's all the positive things that can happen. When you start trying to manage and avoid all the things that could go wrong, you're still over here, right? You're still focusing here. So we need to withdraw back all the way and start to go over here. Now, the problem with over here is not that it doesn't exist, not that it's, not possible, not that we're not worthy. It's just that we've never been here before. It's so unknown to us that just the fact that it's unknown can be scary, right? Unless you've had some experience navigating and adventuring and exploring into the unknown. So this is why a lot of the stuff that I've been practicing and developing and putting into these, levels of the animal totem is to give you experience in, maybe this part of the unknown. So you get comfortable. And if you get comfortable here, then you can go to here, right? And then if you're comfortable here, then maybe you'll go to there. And maybe you might even go all the way out to here. And maybe that's way too much. And you just need to be here for a while, and then maybe come back and play and explore all this. And then you go one day like, oh yes, that's about, let's go out to here now, right? So there's no evidence out here based on where you were that this can happen. But it's like we go back to the example of the cinematics, the liquid in the speaker. And when you start to imagine, fantasize, daydream, desire, a potential out here, that is in the infinite field of infinite potentials. It exists somewhere, just that maybe you don't have the navigational skills yet to get there, but it's there. As long as you know that, then what happens is you just start working towards getting more and more skilled at navigating towards there. And so when you can do that, what will happen is while you're moving this way, all the people that are over here trying to manage their fear around maybe they don't know how to get there, or if you go and they can't get there, then they'll be left over here, all that sort of stuff. When you actually get there, people will see that and they'll go, how the hell did you do that? Right? Because I was over here and I couldn't figure out how to even get into this direction, right? Let alone land it and have it become a real potential in my reality. And so for me, it's like the time to meditate is not just to sit there chanting, while the stars are in position after eating brown rice, because it's what you should do. It's the space like here where there's nothing, right? There's nothing, there's no distraction. You're not trying to avoid this. You're not dealing with the uncertainty of not knowing how to get over here. You're in this neutral space, right? This black space where there's just nothing, right? There's nothing to push you one way or the other. And from there, you can formulate your image, right? You can actually place an image in there, and that relates to, oh, look, there's something like it there, right? And so what I do is I hold that image and I develop the image and I keep working the image over and over. And so with the example of the animal totem of the fox, if you saw the post today, the fox that I had in my mind was very detailed. And, when I went in there, when I went into that void to create the image of the fox, I spent a lot of time focusing on all the details. I created an image and then I would rotate it around and I would look at it from all these different angles. And then I would notice the hairs on it and I would zoom in, right? And I would get detailed. I would get the creases and I would I would get really focused, and then I would start to relax even more, and that relaxed feeling created more energy and more weight towards it. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like out here, the potential becomes more obvious. You can't see the end of my finger, so it can manifest in my finger here. There we go, boom. And there it is, right? And it comes up just like, oh, there it is. And then when you can start to bridge the gap energetically, then you start to follow this thread through life. And these little moments, flutters of emotion or recognition, or more like a deja vu moment, they start to happen more and more. And they align you with your potential, your desire, right? It's like there's that old saying, what you want wants you too, right? Because you're of the same frequency. And it's kind of like when you put the address into your nav man, or your Garmin, or your maps in your phone, it creates this line all the way there, and you can see. But it's like that happens in your everyday reality, but it's more you get these prompts of emotion that go, that's in line with where you want to go. Make this decision over here. Hold on for just a minute. Now go. Oh, that person over there, they're in line. You've got to go meet them. You've got to go talk to them. And so you get all these prompts to move towards it, and it's all about moving towards it. But you do it from this calm, relaxed state. Okay. Even out here, if you start to get anxious, it can pull you off track. So you want to check in with your feelings, hold the emotion, not hold it, but stay within the emotion as much as you can. And when you find yourself getting out of there and it's starting to get difficult to navigate, it's like you're in a storm. Like I was talking to this guy today who was a skydiver, had an injury skydiving, but he was like, he said, did you do the wingsuits? He said, oh yeah. He said, they're so dangerous. You can get into these flat spins, And I said, geez, how do you get yourself out of a flat spin? Because when I was a kid watching Top Gun, the famous scene where they go into a flat spin, that's when Goose dies. How do you avoid something like that? And I think part of the training that's necessary is to know how to pilot and navigate away from those and escape from those negative things, because when you can do that, what you want's right on the other side. Open skies on the other side. And so part of that, also the opposite, the other side to focusing forward, this is what I was saying, you can focus forward. If you're really focused, then it's just like you're almost relentless towards what you want, and nothing's going to stop you. But if you're human, you'll have triggers. You'll have, you'll have negative emotions come up. You'll have stormy weather. You'll have flat spins, and you want to be able to pilot yourself out of them and navigate out of them. And so coming back to the metaphor of the pilot in the flat spin, I said to him, you'd know this because you're into it. I said, there was a movie called Firefox with Clint Eastwood. And in that movie, he got put into a flat spin because when I watched Top Gun, there was no solution to the flat spin. It was just like quicksand. It could happen any time. And when we saw Maverick go back up after Goose had died, remember he wanted to get out of the plane. He's like, I can't do this, right? And I know we all feel like that sometimes. I want what I want. I can see my desire. I've been focusing on it, been doing all the right things, been gluten-free, and I've been doing yoga, and I've been meditating every day. I've been drinking water, and I've been sleeping and all that stuff. But in the back of my mind, that flat spin can come out of anywhere. All right. So what most people do is they fly in a way to avoid the flat spin. They live their life in a way to avoid the negative. Oh, don't do this and don't do that. And if they see other people, like Iceman coming in to jet, with the jet wash, they try and manage other people. Don't fly near me. Don't do that. It's not possible. Don't put me in a position where I get into a flat spin. And it wasn't until much later, probably a year or two, after watching Top Gun as a kid, having this in the back of my brain, this concept, knowing that it was a metaphor for life and manifesting my future reality. I'm like, how do I deal with the flat spin? No one told me about this. All they've done is thrown it out there. This is a potential danger. There's no escape from it. And you could experience potentially horrible loss, like losing your best friend. Okay. Having to live life with all that loss. It's like, okay, that's potential. We have to admit it. We have to accept it. But is there a way to deal with a flat spin? Now, let's keep going with this metaphor because it's interesting. And just stay with me on this because you might learn something and it might change the rest of your life and give you access to all this, okay? All of this. And you won't be afraid of this. You might even want to go into this because you'll know how to deal with the flat spin. And so a movie came out after that called Firefox with Clint Eastwood. I think you can watch it on YouTube for free, or it's on Netflix for free. All right. It's a bit corny, but, a lot of stuff in the 80s was a bit corny, but it had some good underlining programming for you. All right. If you can see past the entertainment of it and see the structure of it, there's some good stuff in there. And so he's in a dogfight. I'm not going to go into the story because that's the story, but gets into a dogfight, and they are flying so fast. These are hypersonic jets. Okay. So you're flying through these potentials at such a high frequency, a high energy. This is the other thing. Everyone says, oh, I want to be at high energy. I want a higher vibration. Think of vibration as higher intensity, higher speed, greater capacity, greater current. All right. If you're not ready for that higher frequency, don't go in there till you do. All right. This is why you have the levels: fox, goat, wolf, orca, whale. All right. You want to be ready for those levels of current. Just like for me in jiu-jitsu, like don't give me the belt yet, the next belt, until I know how to survive in there with those guys at that level, right? So gets into this flat spin. They're in a dogfight, and there's another element here of respect for your enemy, okay? The skill level of what you're up against. Yeah. And so they're flying around. They're at hypersonic speed. The guy shoots the missile. He narrowly avoids the missile, which should have killed him. And then the plane goes into a flat spin because he just pushed the envelope a bit too far. And the other guy's watching him to see, okay, he narrowly avoided the missile, which should have killed him. The flat spin should kill him, right? He should crash into the ocean, and that's the end. Let's see if he can pull out. How good a pilot is this guy? So instead of taking another shot, he waits. The flat spin's happening. They're going at hypersonic speed. Clint Eastwood's characters are about to black out. His G-force suit starts to clamp around his legs, push the blood back up into his brain so he doesn't black out. Stays conscious, and he's on the control. Nothing is working. Has anyone ever felt like that? Nothing's working. I'm trying to manifest my desire, and all this shit's getting in the way. All these people are disrupting me. Everything, I'm under attack because I want what I want. And I'm changing the energy around me. He reaches over and he grabs the slide for the landing gear, and he pulls the landing gear down. The landing gear comes down in the plane, and it's just enough drag to slow the plane down so he can get stable again and regain control. Regains control, gets to a place of safety. The enemy pulls up beside him, and they're like, side by side, and he nods, pulls back into the position he was in, and off they go again, and the story continues, right? So what does the landing gear represent? Landing gear represents grounding. It represents that stillness. What a lot of people do is they get out there and they panic. They get into a flat spin and they just keep pulling on the stick, and it gets worse and worse, and they think they're getting it under control, and it goes the wrong way, and then they end up crashing and burning or ejecting. They eject out of the new reality, go all the way back to the old one. Now, that's better than crashing and burning, right? Eject out, live to fight another day. But if you can, when you catch yourself in these moments of spinning out of control, is to come back into the center, ground yourself, do things you should do, take a nap, reset your brain, go for a swim in the ocean, meditate, stop playing over here with trying to manage this, stop trying to push towards this. Because here's the thing, when we're talking about manifesting, we're not chasing anything. We're reprogramming the subconscious mind, using the conscious mind to hold the thought so the unconscious can start to use that material, reorganize itself around that new information, recalibrate the mind, creating new neurology, neural networks in the brain. Those networks have an influence on the physical body. The body feels and takes action on those new thoughts, and that pulls you into the new reality, and the new reality becomes attracted to you. And then it just shows up in your life. And I keep coming back to this, and I was saying this over and over the last, I don't know how long, about the fox. The fox is there as a symbol for you to focus on, because when you start seeing the fox, just like other people in this group are posting foxes now, right? They're seeing foxes everywhere. What does that mean? It means that the subconscious is taking the program in. It's running in the background, doesn't need any effort from you at all. And it's just going to start attracting images of foxes to you. Every time you see the fox turn up in your reality, it's a reinforcement of the principle of what we're talking about. Like, there it is again. The program's running really well. I didn't have to even think about, I wasn't even thinking about a fox. I was thinking about something totally different. A fox pops up in my reality again. Whether it's on your feed on your phone, whether it's an image in the street, whether it's on a t-shirt, whether it's the word on a van going past, going to the Woolworths, and the dog toy. Marley needs a dog toy. Boom, there's a fox there. Interesting. Are we learning something? Let's go through these comments, because there's been a few in here. Hope to hear more about your life experience. I'm intrigued. Yes, you are, aren't you? It's because I'm a man of mystery. Yeah. Okay. Reaching out to Lucy. Guys probably have a good conversation, I'm sure. That's the other thing, guys. Feel free to connect. Be respectful of each other, obviously. I think what goes without saying. I don't have to say that, but I have to say that. Saw a fox yesterday night after a sound healing session. Haven't seen foxes in years. The coincidence with this live is just so interesting. Exactly, right? So is it about that you saw, is it about a fox? No, it's about how, look, those connections, they're there, right? This fox is just a value we put inside the program. It can be, a goat, a wolf, an orca, a whale, a cup of coffee, a parking space, $100, $1,000, $1,000,000, a new house, a new car, a new connection, a friend, a relationship, an adventure, right? Lean into the uncomfortable. Okay, so I can't see who. I'm on two different platforms here, and one I can see who's posting the comments, but I can only see some comments. And on the other one, I can see more comments, but I can't see who's posting them. A dragonfly totem, please. Yeah, dragonflies there. I haven't really focused on it, but definitely it was one of the totems for me in my process. So I'm talking about visualizing spacecraft. That's interesting. So space, this whole thing about UFO and spacecraft and all that, believe it, don't believe it, real, not real, doesn't matter, right? For me, it's a representation of, flights of the mind. It's where we can go in our imagination. A UFO is something, that can go in any direction at any speed to any period of time. Well, that's what your mind can do, They call it remote viewing is the scientific term. You can remote view. Square breathing, yeah, definitely a good technique. Square breathing, triangle breathing, tactical breathing, whatever you call it, doesn't matter. Actually, it was a good example. It was a guy at training the other day, and he had a really hard roll with two really tough guys rolling with each other, and he maxed out. Like he went to the point where his heart rate had gone through the roof, and he was in a flat spin. Okay, he was out of control. You could hear his breathing. He just couldn't get his breathing under control, and then psychologically, you could see him, getting more and more worked up. And so, I just went over to him and helped him breathe. Just gave him something to focus on. He saw what was going on, immediately started to slow his breathing down, deepen his breathing. Start to slow down. We do that breath work with the ice baths locally. Irina puts on ice baths every couple of weeks. We go do that, do the Wim Hof breath stuff. And then you get in the ice and, the body's breathing in, no problem, but breathing out, you can't breathe out, right? Because it's too cold. You need to override the automatic breathing pattern in that environment. That environment, you need a different breathing pattern to be able to stay in the ice longer. Most people who don't know how to do that, they're out within 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and that's it. They can't handle it because not so much that it's cold. Yes, it's cold. Yes, it's painful on the skin. It's not painful. It's uncomfortable. It's a feeling, a sensation that you're not used to. It's unfamiliar. You don't know how to map it or reference it. So you just label it as pain, right? But it's not pain when you know how to relax into it. It's a sensation. Just like lots of things are just emotions, they're just sensations. Once you have a foundation for them, you can assign different meanings to them. As soon as you start breathing, the heart starts to calm down. The beats per minute lower down. They did a lot of research on this for soldiers. Found that once your heartbeat goes over the threshold, it's between like 180, 200 beats a minute, you go into fight, flight, freeze, and some people can have an animal response where the bladder and bowels evacuate. It's what we did when saber-toothed tiger was trying to eat us. We would drop evacuate the bladder and bowels, and that would signal, hopefully, to the thing that was trying to eat us that we were unhealthy and sick and it shouldn't take a bite out of us. It's all deep hardwiring animal programming. It goes all the way back into the back part of the brain here, the midbrains. Most of us live in here in the neocortex. We get into these situations that put us into here, and it's like, this is unfamiliar territory. We've never really used this part of the brain. This is all automatic programming. So the breathing, the meditation, the training that we do going into these different situations, like ice baths, like rolling in jiu-jitsu, like someone had a comment here about all the posts with BDSM, that made me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not sure who wrote that because I can't quite see who it was. Yeah, I get it, and I was uncomfortable too until I understood what was actually going on in there. And then, it became familiar, and then I could assign new meaning to it, right? So all these different environments, whether you're into it or not, it's not what it's about. It's about putting you into situations or giving you material that's outside your comfort zone. Maybe you live in this ring here. Your whole life is in this ring. We like to think we're all the way out here on the edge. It's like when the guys who start jiu-jitsu, it's like, oh, when I get into a fight, I see red, and I'll take down anybody. I'm not afraid of anyone. It's like, yeah, but when you're up against someone who knows what you're doing, you think you're out here, but actually you're here, right? It becomes very obvious to you and everybody else. And so when we go into these environments, whether it's ice baths, jiu-jitsu, the tantra kink scene, it's like, okay, well, where am I actually at in terms of these environments? I thought in my mind, I projected mentally that I was here, but when I'm actually here, I'm somewhere else. And so instead of getting like, oh, I don't want to do this, right? You go, okay, well, who am I in this space now? And is this where I want to be? Is this how I want to show up? Most people go, oh, that's not for me. Okay, sure, no problem. You're an adult. You can do whatever you like, For me, I want to feel comfortable in those spaces, Not to say I'm going to, put myself into situations that I'm not enjoyable for me, but I'm going to at least be comfortable in there to say no thank you. You know, I don't need to do 15 minutes in the ice, thank you. You know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes is just fine. I get everything I need in that time from there doing that. Learn to lean into the uncomfortable. Yeah, it's a good word, lean. Lean into it. You don't have to jump in. You don't have to throw yourself in the deep end. You know, just lean in. Just poke your head in and have a look. You know, one of the things that I learned from the guys who were doing these massive jumps in parkour, you know, across buildings and stuff. They go, come on, let's go. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to jump from that building to that. Are you crazy? You know, you might be able to do that. I'm not going to do that. I know you don't have to do it. We don't expect you to do it. In fact, you're not ready to do that yet. But what we do want you to do, right, is to deal with your emotions around it and stand and look over the edge and feel what you feel and let your body feel it, right? And at least when you've had the courage to acknowledge yourself in that situation, then you can say, it's not for me. I'll go back. Square breathing is used by the special forces. Yeah. Self-regulation. You know, can you imagine you could regulate under any circumstances? You know, yeah, okay, you'd feel discomfort. Oh, yes, you might not like things. Yes, you might go, that's definitely not for me. But imagine you could always find your center back from anything. It's kind of like being a martial artist and having a defense that's impenetrable. Okay, maybe you're not, your attack isn't able to take down an elephant, but you know, you can keep yourself safe anywhere in any circumstances. It's a powerful position, orientation to be in, to approach anything. Oh, it was Kate. Okay. Yeah, and all the stuff that we're doing, it's an invitation, right? It's not obligated. So it's options. There are options for you to consider. There's a great commercial back in the late 90s, I think, by Mitsubishi, and they were going up against Commodore and Ford with the Magna, and it was obviously a car that was not up to the same level because they weren't trying to be the best car. They were trying to be another option, and it was a cheaper option. And their whole campaign said, please consider the Mitsubishi Magna. Still remember it to this day. And you know how many Magnas they sold? Oh my God. Everybody was driving a Magna. I wrote about some stuff. Kate, thank you. I worked in strip clubs, etc. Yeah. I saw another side that people would say is BDSM, but I was non-consensual, really. Yeah. Personal boundaries and celibacy, taking my body back. Haven't had it to myself since I was 14. And my young son, grandkids have been my focus since September. Self-love, confidence, my goals. Good point you bring up, you know, boundaries. It's definitely part of, you know, one of the other totems that I didn't put on the list yet was the armadillo. You know, it's that being able to protect yourself, having that that defense. When you wanted to, you can curl up and protect yourself, but you can open back up again. Right? It's important. And consent, gosh, all the stuff. You go to any of these events now in the Tantra community and the kinks community. God, there's a massive portion on consent. All about consent and how to know when consent is there and how to say no, and people's how people should deal with that, how people deal with no's, how people can say no, and a lot of it's not very hard, but it's only difficult because this old frame that we come from in terms of relating is such a narrow corridor, and this stuff is all outside that. But it's kind of like I relate it to being a diver, say scuba diving. You're not going to put the tanks on and just start swimming. You need to get in the pool, you need to get in the classroom, you need to learn all about the safety, the equipment. Then once you've got a basis of understanding of the language and the equipment, then you can get in the pool, and then you do all your safety stuff, you do all these routines and exercises. So when you get into a situation out there that's beyond your norm, you have some tools, some ideas on how to deal with things, right? And the people in the space know that you know how to be safe, right? You do buddy breathing, all that sort of stuff. You know how to do your stops, check in with yourself, how to find your regulator, all that sort of stuff. And because when you're safe and diving safely, and no one has to worry about you, you're confident that you're okay, and you can really enjoy the environment. And there's so much to see and so many interesting things there. Yeah, there's things that are scary and dangerous, but yeah, some people enjoy those thrills too. Okay, so we're going for quite a while here, coming up to an hour and 40 minutes. I'm going to sort of shut up a bit and then put it out to you guys if you wanted to talk any more about anything or go into any more detail. And just open up Q&A for the last 20 minutes. Cheers, mate. Crying at the moment. It's a bit young. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff. They're talking about the somatic release. That is often comes up in these spaces. Can be quite cathartic, quite healing, and it's not necessarily about the technique that's being used, or the method. The principle behind it, as the way I see it, and what I learned when I was doing deep meditation workshops overseas, and it was all about changing neurology. And the basic principle, the way I learned it, the way I understand it, whether it's right or wrong, it helped me, it's helped other people. And that's kind of more important, is that it works, whether it's right. Some things can be right, but they don't work for you. And things don't have to be right as long as it works, and you get that freedom. That can be really, really valuable. And this is for anyone who's got any type of trauma, which is everyone, right? People who say they've never had trauma, they're probably lying, or they've never been outside, okay, and they've never tripped over and bumped their knee or hurt themselves. Learning how to walk and be a human being. So what happens is, when we experience an event that's outside of our response ability, our ability to respond to the stimulus, and it takes us out beyond what we can deal with, right, in that moment, is that usually there's a lot of energy behind that. There's a lot of charge in that event, whether it's coming from the inside or it's coming from the outside. And the subconscious pays attention to that and goes, right, that is what we're going to pay attention to, and we're going to hold that experience, and we're going to create all this layer of protection around the pain that happened, and we're going to reformulate our personality and our ways of dealing and interacting with those types of things, and maybe other things that they're associated with. And there's all this network that gets influenced in the brain, and then that over time sort of settles down, and that becomes your personality, right? And then you go through life like, this is okay, this is not okay, this is safe, this is unsafe, this is good, this is bad, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is for me, this is not for me, I could do that, I could never do that. All these sorts of things, all these sorts of decisions get made around this event. And maybe that happened when we were really young, like under 10. Maybe it happened 10 to 20. Maybe it happened afterwards. It doesn't matter. The principle's still the same. And it's when we sort of turn around, we get a bit of safety in our life. We turn around and go, okay, I've been behaving this way this whole time, and it works really well over here, but then it cuts me off from these experiences over here. Or I'm really curious about there, but my fear around it is of the unknown is too great that I can't even step into the space. Right? I can't even approach it in my mind, let alone actually go and do it. It's like that guy skydiving. I'm like, oh, geez, that'd be cool to have that experience, but then I'm afraid of all the things that could go wrong, so I just don't even go, right? So we trial these techniques, we read all these books, we go to all these seminars, we might even listen to do affirmations and all this sort of stuff, but we can't seem to move into the next layer, right? We can't go beyond that husk of whatever that boundary is of who we believe ourselves to be. And we might even push past it, but then we get snapped back, or we push past it and we're not equipped to deal with it. We don't have the skills, like the diver going out to open water. It's too overwhelming. And so, Tony Robbins would do what's called a parts integration, where you'd have the event that happened, and maybe, and then you have over here the where you want to be. Come back. Here we are. We're back. Keep you all in suspense. Now, in order to collapse the structure of that so you can get in and access it, so you can do the healing and you can start to change, right? You need to get your energy up to the same intensity, frequency levels that created the event for you to form the structure of all the things that are keeping you as your version of you now and not allowing you to move beyond that. So these things like rolling in jiu-jitsu and facing, a situation of simulated combat, or, someone dominating you and threatening your to choke you or to break your arm or something like in jiu-jitsu. There's all these rules around it to keep you safe, but you can get your emotions up to the same level of when you were a kid and the bully down the street, sat on your chest and pounded you into the ground, right? Which caused all this, you to lead you up to this point and not go beyond, for example. Or, you might have been in a situation where you were scared out of your body so much that, you disassociated and you're walking around half your life not in your body properly. So maybe you get into the ice and you put your body into the ice in the ice bath, where you experience the same energy of what it felt to be terrified, only you're not feeling the fear, but you're feeling the same intensity of energy. So you can start to access those, what Barbara Ann Brennan in the book Healing Hands of Light called a frozen time conglomerate. It's where energy and emotion in a particular time, say 10 years ago, for example, is still being mentally, emotionally, energetically held in the body somewhere in a particular pattern, right? This is why thinking positive thoughts doesn't work. It only gets you so far. It's not long lasting. And this is why affirmations don't always work. This is why pushing forwards towards goals don't work sometimes. It's because this frozen time conglomerate is still being held in the body unconsciously, and you can't access it until you. It's like a frequency lock. Unless you have the same frequency of energy key, it won't open. But when you do have the same energy, it opens. You can access the programming, and then you can start to change the programming so it can serve you rather than hold you back in protection of and bracing. And so for me, it's more about being able to access those things that I can't access. It's about being around people who are doing the same sort of thing so they can lovingly, hopefully, gently, hopefully, supportively, hopefully, show me where my blind spots are and reveal to me what's hidden from me so I can start to work on it, right? Because unless you can see it, you can't get into it. And then, but when you can see it, you're not in it anymore. And you can start to change it. Just the mere act of observing things, the observer effect, the mere act of observing it changes it ever so slightly, right? You need to be willing to be able to look at it. And sometimes you can't just go in and look at it. It's like that junk room, It's been closed so long, you don't even know what's in there anymore. And something might have grown and developed in there that the second you open the door jumps out at you, right? Or the bowling ball rolls off the shelf and clonks you on the head. There's ways to enter those rooms, either by yourself or with support, where you can safely go in there, start to see what's in there, clear the room out, and repurpose it. Because sometimes there's some good stuff in there. Anyone who's ever been to their grandparents' house who have a good experience and got into the garage have found all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff that they forgot was even in there that's pretty useful to you. Same thing in those spaces in your energy makeup, the information, and what's in your body. There's some real gems in there, some real good learnings in there. But we need to release the charge around them first. Some of those areas are pretty charged up, and it acts like a defense mechanism, like an electrical fence. And when you try to approach it, you get the shit shocked out of you, right? You don't want to try and have to deal with that. You want to find out where the charge is coming from, release the charge, or use a metaphor, turn the electric fence off, and then you can open the gate, and then you can get inside, and then you can start to make the changes you want to make to get the outcomes you want to have. So sometimes that discomfort is useful, right? A little bit, but not too much. It's like the old saying, take a little bit of poison each day and you become immune. So you don't have to take a big dose once a month and have to deal with being sick and, all that sort of stuff. I've been on a healing journey, and letting the physical emotions come out is very helpful. It's releasing the crap and the energy it's held in my whole psyche. Yeah. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. Mile by mile, it's a trial. And so I try to, when I am aware of those emotions coming up, I try to at least let some of it out, if not all of it, as much as I possibly can in that moment, knowing that once it's released from my body, I never have to deal with that particular bit of energy anymore, right? It's kind of like gas. Once it's out, it's out. You only have to deal with that part once. There'll be more later, but right now, at least that part's out of your system, and it's not tying you all up in knots, running off and hiding in shop doorways, having little releases so people don't see what's going on. Yeah, better out than in. That's what I say. Yeah, that observation and feedback, awesome. So yeah, that's also part of meditation. Meditation is not always blissful. It's not always positive, but it can always be profound. Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Caesar emperor, he said he used to do this exercise where he would meditate on all the worst things that could have gone wrong in that day. And he would let his mind try to work out solutions to them all. And I saw something today. It said, if you can accept the worst case just accept it and go, okay, that's a potential. It's not what we're trying to go for. We're not trying to avoid it. We're not trying to not make it happen. We're definitely not trying to make it happen. But it's a potential in the infinite field that exists somewhere. As soon as you sort of acknowledge it, it's like tagging an iceberg out on the ocean. It's like, okay, well, it's there. Excuse me. If we can accept that as a potential, then now we can start to move into others instead, right? One of the things and that works the other way too when you're working towards things, right? Whatever desire, goal you have, whatever objects, person, place, time, event you're wanting to manifest, it's never going to be exactly as you are doing it. It'll be something like it. There was that song by Coldplay, Something Just Like This. I want something just like this. If you can accept that, and you can let go enough, then you can start to have some pretty cool stuff come into your reality. There we go. Lyrics. No, that didn't work. Let's try again. There we go. Well, remembering that the potential that you're trying to manifest is in the unknown. It's there, but it's not visible to your conscious mind yet. Your subconscious probably knows exactly where it is, but your conscious mind doesn't know where it is, because if it did, you'd already have it. So what happens is when you focus too much, like, here's the other thing people do is they push their manifestations away. Not exactly how I envisioned it. It must be exactly as I envisioned it. So, well, no. It can't come how you envisioned it exactly, because the mind that you're manifesting from, that had the desire, isn't at the capacity to be able to accept that the potential was already there. So the potential is going to show up in a way that's exactly in line with the new mind that you're stretching yourself to be able to accept that that's already there. And it'll show up in a way, once your mind is stretched to that new level. What does it say? Once a mind stretched to, it can't go back to its old capacity, or something like that. That was it, Einstein. You know the one I'm talking about. I'm sure you've probably heard it 1,000 times. Is that it's going to show up in a way that's unknown to you from where you are now. But when you actually manifest it and it shows up, it'll be different to the way you imagined it, but it will be ideal to the new mind that you'll have adapted yourself into, expanded yourself into. And you probably had this before. You go back and you go, oh, I'm kind of glad I didn't get it exactly the way I manifested, because, this is better. This is even better than what I imagined. See, so who's resisting social media? I'm so glad you came onto my non-SIM phone and caught you. There are no coincidences. Thanks. Looks like I'll have to add social media to my new phone. Ah, you bastard. Gotcha. No, see, it's not good or bad. It's useful or it's not useful. You know, do I actually like Facebook and what it stands for? Do I love the company and Zuck? Nah. Good night. Thank you. Good night. Whoever that was. Can't see who it is. But it's useful. It has its uses. All these things, are they useful or are they not? That's what we're looking for. This is not about dogma. It's not about the way. Does it work? Yep, we use it. Does it not work? Don't use it. Works for this person, great. Works for you, doesn't work for you, doesn't matter. Find something that does work. We'll find something that works. All right, guys. 2 hours. Jeez, I thought we'd only go for an hour. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your energy. Bye for now. We'll see you all in the next video. If you have any questions, you want me to go into anything deeper, yeah, put them in the comments, message, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.